Who's going to be an analyst with us throughout the postseason here. Great to have you along, Brian.
Well, he's fortunate that they killed the penalty off, so it wasn't costly, but it was selfish. My standpoint in Calgary this year, the best team we played was Nashville. So if you're that bad and you're in the lottery year after year, and I've been in the lottery plenty of times, we're there because we were terrible. I don't think you want to reward sustained failures. Well, watching Jake play in that game was like watching a guy sink in quicksand. It's slowly getting worse and worse and worse. Anton Strawman was here in Toronto. I don't know what I got for him, a bag of pucks. I gave him away. He was a young player, and I went to John Cooper about 3 years ago and said, would you please apologize to Anton for me?
I like your tie, by the way.
I know. I can't take anything you say seriously with a done-up tie.
Hey.
It looks ridiculous.
His is done up more than yours, by the way.
You know what? But that's even more wrong.
It's true.
The tension with you and Freed already, Brian. Wow. It's just the dynamic is fantastic.
Bet on the Irish guy if there's a fight.
Yeah, well, duly noted. Brian Burke joining us in studio. Brian transitioned within a matter of 5 minutes from the front office to the desk here at Sportsnet in the hockey desk down at the CBC building. So it's been a bit of a whirlwind, has it not?
Yeah, that's all. I mean, my announcement with the Flames came Friday morning. It hasn't even been 6 days yet, has it? What's today?
Today is Tuesday. Although the way my show's been going, I'm not really sure.
Both of us had to think about that.
Yeah,
it is indeed Tuesday.
So
yes.
It hasn't been 4 or 5 days. So it was right away, fly to Toronto. Original thought was I wasn't going to do a game on the weekend, but then Sportsnet said, can you do a game? I said, sure. Yeah. Flew on Friday night, did the game Saturday, flew back Saturday night because I had to clean up my office on Sunday. Was supposed to do local media availability yesterday and then fly back. Well, no one wanted to see me there, so I just left, tried to get an earlier flight and couldn't. Flight's delayed. Cab takes me home, grab a suit, and down and do the next game. So it's been a tough couple of days, but it's been fun, too. It's great.
It's interesting to me, like just because you have to deal with the media as an executive and then to step into the media, and a lot of people think our job is full of horse bleep, and sometimes, to be honest, when I'm watching it is full of horse bleep. But is it easy? Is it hard to make that transition?
Well,
are you just...
I did it for a year before. Yeah. Like, you're too young to remember, probably. You too.
TSN.
But I did it. I did that year. I did the draft for TSN, and then I did the World Cup for the CBC.
Right.
And then I went back to TSN and did labor commentary. So I've done television. It was 14 years ago. Right. And I have felt very rusty the last couple of days.
Really?
Yeah, really rusty. And I just watching those clips, it's a little better than I thought it was. But
it's a lot better than what you thought. I don't know. You seem like you kind of just got right back on the horse from the looks of it.
I appreciate that. I don't think so, but I appreciate that. It's been, these guys are pros. The one good thing about the first 2 games is you're on the air with pros.
Right.
So even if you're not 100% sharp, even if you make a mistake, they're gonna pick you up. Yeah.
Pros and Elliott, but whatever.
Oh, wow. See, I'm not going there.
Firing back for
I know. I'm just scared of Elliott. I don't want him to have a 30-second thought, because then things get, So I'm watching with Ron McLean last night, and you're talking Leafs. You're talking Lou. The tie is as we see it here. Then, towards the end of the Golden Knights game last night, you did have the tie done up.
The start of the game.
The start of the game, forgive me.
Yeah.
Was that your call?
No.
Was someone, okay, so we suggested you do the tie-up. Like, walk me through that, because I don't know you. I know what Elliott's saying. This is how I know Brian Burke.
There's a backstory here, though. You know this, right? Like, he never wears a tie on this show.
Yeah.
And then he goes and hosts over there on the NHL thingy.
Yeah.
And they made him put on a tie. It looked like he was choking him out.
I had a tie. They asked me to tie it last night. Guess what? I have a boss. He wants me to tie the tie. I'll tie the tie. But I don't think that's my call. I'm an employee.
No, but if I were you, I don't have a good attitude. So I would walk in, if I'm Brian Burke, and I'm like, I'm doing this because it's fun, it's nice. I don't know if I have to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm here. I'll do up this tie if I feel like doing up this tie.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
See, I have a different view.
Okay.
I think everyone has a boss. So I got bosses at Sportsnet. And one of them, I'm not going to say who it was because it doesn't matter, said, we'd like you to tie your tie. Okay. That was the length of this.
That's the line.
It's that simple.
All right. Because I thought there'd have to be like a sit-down with all 5 of them, and it's like, Brian, we got to tie.
But it'd be like if I showed up.
The families get together?
The 5 families talk to Brian.
I want you to put the tie on.
It would be like me showing up without a suit, and the producer saying, you need to wear a suit. Well, guess what? You put on a suit.
Okay.
The dress code, I don't negotiate the dress code. My boss negotiates the dress code.
Right.
All right, fair enough. Sorry.
So, Sixero,
I've talked about this too much.
Stop complaining
because when
about
I went
putting
over
on a
there,
tie
I had
over
no
there.
choice because I'm a nobody. But I was just curious how it worked with you and if it was similar or different than my experience.
I would, if I were my boss, if I were Scott Moore, who was not the guy that spoke to me, and his first weekend on the job, Brian Burke is making us think about wearing a tie, it would be a very short career.
I would expect it. Are you
No.
kidding?
He's lobbying
that's
for
all I would
himself.
expect.
He's lobbying for himself.
I'd be disappointed if it was easy to have you tie up a tie. I'd be disappointed. Okay, we've talked about this too long. Let's talk about hockey.
Were you surprised by the Lou Lamoriello news?
No.
No. You had heard the news before that
This
it might happen.
this story's been circulating in the hockey community for a couple of months, and I'm disappointed. And I haven't talked to Lou yet. I'm going to try and reach him tonight. I'm disappointed if this was news to him because certainly the notion, the story is that Kyle Dubas was given permission to interview for the general manager job in Colorado and was granted permission to interview, then was offered the job and they said no. And so my sense of etiquette is that if I give you permission to interview for the job, I'm giving you permission to take the job at the same time. And we used to be able to get draft picks for losing front office people, but the league outlawed that now. So he was told, okay, you have to come back, but certain promises were made and so on. This backstory's been swirling around for 2 months. The reason no one talks about it openly is, first off, you hope it's not true for Lou's sake. But second, you're not going to go up to a guy and ask him, is it true that you're not coming back because of this or that? So I haven't double-checked any of this. I'm pretty confident the veracity of it. Right. And I have checked parts of it. I know parts of it are true for sure. So we none of us were surprised. We weren't surprised in the least.
And forgive me for the next question because you're going to talk to Lou. You haven't yet. Do you think this is his last GM job in the league?
It might be. He's just like I think at some point it is a young man's game, and Lou is a couple years older than I am. I'm 63 this summer. Mm-hmm. I think Lou's 75. It might be. It might not. He's so well respected. He's so smart, and so. The good news is Lou is in the Hall of Fame and walked in. He walked into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Financially, he's all set. He's got a great family set up in New Jersey, if that's where he goes back, with his daughters close by and one of his sons and a bunch of grandkids and stuff. And, of course, as I said last night, I owe Lou a lot. I played for him in college. I played 4 years for him. I love the guy, and I hope he's happy. I hope this gives him some time to do some of the other things.
Right.
But
you think, a lot of people have mentioned this, that Kyle Dubas is the favorite to replace Lou because of the backstory there?
Yes, that's my information, is that almost a guarantee was made to him, a promise was made to him.
Do you think he can handle it at 31 years old in Toronto? And I know you've had your battles with the Toronto market before. Well, this is a pretty young guy. He's surrounded by some stuff, but...
Well, I think that was the plan when Lou came in, is whether it was initially whether it was Mark Hunter or whether it was Kyle, to have same thing I did in Calgary, ostensibly or in theory, put some gray hair in the office next to the young kid. Kid learns faster. Kid avoids the big mistake. I think it's worked in Calgary. I think Brad Treliving doesn't need me at all. I bet you the same type of mentoring took place here. And Kyle Dubas is a smart guy who works hard. Like, everyone thinks he's just an analytics guy, but he's in rinks all the time. He's a hockey guy. So I think and you got Cliff Fletcher here still. I think he's still on the payroll. He's been around forever. You got Brendan Shanahan, who's he's not a lot of front office experience, but some. And you got Mark Hunter, who's a top guy on the amateur side. So I don't know. I think it could work.
The role of the analytics guy, I know the rep the young man has, but that type of GM, they're still struggling in Arizona. Like, there's a bit of a stigma still in terms when you say analytics and give a guy like that much.
You're trying to say he's more of a hockey guy, or he's just as much as a hockey guy. Yeah.
This is not so. Baseball's gone through this. Right. Teams will go all analytics. Then they're like, no, we actually have to watch these guys play and make some judgments. Right. We actually have to value the long ball. We have to, depending on what league we're in, we need guys who can manufacture runs. They go through this, and they do turnovers where they dump the analytics guy and bring in a baseball guy. Right. So it's not a debate that's unique to hockey. In fact, it's more intense in baseball, I think. But hockey analytics are new. I don't think they'll ever be the primary evaluation tool in our business. And that's where Kyle and I would probably differ. Our first observations, or our first tool of evaluation is observation. It's eyeballs. Right. Watch the kid play. That's number one. What do you see? What does he show you? Number 2 for us is the background check. We're going to find out everything we can about this kid, his work ethic, what he eats, is he polite, what do his billets say about him, what do his high school teachers say about him, all the way back, and try and find out as much information as you can, particularly about high picks. Then you go to the analytics, because they do destroy a kid's case sometimes.
Right.
Where you say, well, we love this kid, and then the analytics guy says, well, it's an optical illusion, because here's what really happened. So it's an important part of what we do. I don't think it'll ever be the primary thing.
Can I bring up Ottawa for a second?
Sure.
We're kind of bouncing around. Guy Boucher is going to stay. Staff's going to stay. Were you surprised by that, or were you expecting that?
No, I think he did enough in his first year that despite the troubles, he probably deserves another chance. And also, there's a financial consideration there. Replace your coaching staff. It's not it's pretty expensive to do.
Right.
And they're watching the money there, I think. So, no, I'm not surprised.
Does that style, like, I just wonder how you're saying, you know, even the GM's game is a young man's game, and I'm watching the style that Guy Boucher employs with his team. That wears on people. Like, there are players who don't want to play that style. Is that something that a coach has got to be wary of when he walks into situations?
Well, if you look at how they play when it's successful, it forces a lot of backward skating. It forces a lot of waiting around, and offensive players don't like that. Yeah. But the offensive players certainly like what happens in the transition game after the turnover.
Right.
So it's some of those things where you're going to have to sweat a little bit to get the opportunity you want. But once you see that the sweat results in that opportunity, you buy in a little bit more. No one complained about it last year.
Right.
No one complained about it last year. Now it's a nightmare. It's boring. It's terrible. It's stifling for the goal-scoring guys. I didn't hear one peep out of those guys last year.
So what happened with that team?
Can't.
Was it just goaltending went south? Like, what happened?
Oh, I think it was multi-dimensional. The goaltending was obviously a big problem. I think and Guy would admit this too. I'm not dumping on him. I think Guy would admit that his style wears on players more the second year than the first year, because they get to think about it more. A lot of coaches like that, by the way. And a lot of subpar performances by key guys.
He's funny, though, because he also believes in rest as a weapon. And for a guy who has a hard-ass reputation, if I'm a player, I do appreciate that some days. Yeah. I appreciate not having the practice, not having the game day skate. And that part of his rep has never really correlated with the other side to me in terms of Guy Boucher. I've always found that interesting.
Well, he and Joel Quenneville are the two guys probably that believe in days off more than any other two coaches. And rest is a weapon. But too much rest means you're not getting the work in. Yeah. It means your conditioning levels aren't right. It means your execution's not correct. So it's a tightrope. It's a balance. A successful coach practices enough that he gets the work done, he gets the aerobic base, he gets the execution he needs when the game begins, but he also gets some rest.
Big game in Winnipeg, and I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the Jets and the Preds. And I heard your clip here about saying the toughest team that you guys faced this year on paper was the Nashville Predators, and maybe on the ice as well. And I thought going into this series, their experience, their blue line, I thought that they matched up really well against Winnipeg, and they were my favorite to win it. After 2 games, I'm not sure. Like, Winnipeg has shown me a lot in those 2 games.
They didn't play the other club, which said the best team we played late was Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Now, the difference between the two, I watched the first part of Kelly's analysis about tonight about the start of the game.
Right.
I agree. This is what happens in the playoffs. It's going to be crazy in there. It's the loudest building in the league. It's the smallest building in the league, or second smallest, and it's the loudest building in the league. Great fans. It's going to be bedlam in there. But it's like that in Nashville, too.
Right.
The first 5 minutes, we tell the players, just get through it. Chip the pucks out. Don't make any mistakes. Don't take any. Just get through the first 5 minutes. Ignore. You won't be able to hear the coach. Just ignore it. The difference is they get the last change. Winnipeg gets the last change. And I think the hitting that takes place in every building the first 5 minutes is a little different in Winnipeg because they've got guys that can hurt you. Yeah. They've got a truculent, everyone loves when I use that word. they've got, I think Nashville can match their intensity, but not their truculence, not their meanness. And you could take a couple guys out of the game in the first 10 minutes the way these guys play. So that's the difference for me. I would share the sentiments on Ryan Johansson. Last year he made a believer out of me. I never liked him much as a player. Yeah. I thought he was indifferent. I thought he disappeared for great stretches.
Passive.
Last year he really picked it up.
Yeah.
Did you use truculence at the CBC building over the weekend? Or did you drop that for the first time with us?
I don't know.
There was some truculence on the ice, though.
Yeah. Oh, there was some truculence. I just would feel honored.
Yeah. Buff 2 guys, like that's it.
Yeah, well, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
We're sanitizing this game sometimes when the fact of the matter is This has always been a part of our game. The combat levels, the hitting, the fighting, and there's nothing wrong with a series heating up like this one's heating up.
I love it. I would maybe another day when we get you in here, I'd love to talk about the balance between some of the teams that have ignored the truculence and what happened in the playoffs, because I think the teams that ignored truculence suffered in the playoffs.
But it's interesting
In the West. In the West in particular.
I would look in Toronto and wonder if they needed a little more truculence too, or at least a little more pushback.
I would agree, but the teams that are playing in the East now aren't big teams, not big hitting teams.
Pittsburgh's done okay without the
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think there's still an East-West divide.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And Johansson getting hurt in that last postseason, let's remember, right? I'm not saying they beat Pittsburgh, but
They might have.
Man.
And that's what I said. I told David Poyle this, and I'd say it about Ryan on TV. I felt he was an indifferent player. I thought he was the most improved player in the playoffs last year because he did compete. And if he'd been healthy, who knows who would have won the Cup. That's how good he was last year.
you were good here.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We appreciate it. Thanks, Brian. Don't be a stranger.
Thank you. Wow, I love the set.
Because what's going to happen is we're going to work you so hard you don't want to see us anymore. Welcome to Rogers.
We're already there.